Welcome in to Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. Want to tell all of you, thank you for coming in and hanging out with me on Outkick the Show, presented by Oddshark. Go to Oddshark for all of your gambling and informational related needs. Make sure you get there today to get hooked up with all your gambling picks. I'll have all my gambling picks up tomorrow, but I already told you the play of the year. My gambling play of the year, beyond a shadow of a doubt, Mizzou is going to cover at Vandy. Make sure that you hit that. You'll be glad that you did because you'll be filthy rich at the end of the week. Also, want to tell you right now, it's Christmas season almost. Thanksgiving is next week. It is 9 days away, I believe. 9 days from now is Thanksgiving. Do you know what happens right after Thanksgiving? Your wife starts spending money like crazy. Even if you're single, somehow you spend more money than you anticipated. You end up taking expensive vacations that you don't anticipate. You're buying presents for people you don't like. Santa Clay is here for you. And one way Santa Clay can take care of you, I'll tell you, it's to make you get hooked up with a great mortgage right now. Call my friends at The Home Loan Expert, and they will take care of you. They will ensure that you have an incredible rate, the likes of which will be the envy of your entire neighborhood. If you've got a rate in the 4s, they can get you a rate in the 2s. They will get you hooked up right now. Be glad that you did it. Go to thehomeloanexpert.com right now. And if you go to The Home Loan Expert right now and you tell my guy Ryan Kelly, hey, Clay Travis and Outkick sent me, you get a year of free Outkick VIP to get rich today. Do I have extra lights on today? No. But you know what's happened is somehow my the time change has now got a huge light coming in, like it's almost blinding me from the 3rd floor of the Outkick mansion here. I don't know what's happened, but suddenly, like, I can barely see this huge bright light. Well, that's also a good point. The sun hasn't been out in Nashville for like 2 weeks, so the sun might not have been out since the time changed. And as a result, no, I've just got brilliant natural light, and I look like Casper the fucking Ghost, I noticed, on this situation. No. I'm not a curtains guy. All right, curtains are way too affordable. I've got plantation shutters. Plantation shutters are like curtains, except they cost 10 times as much. We got plantation shutters in this bitch. No curtains. Curtains would be too affordable. When you have a multi-million-dollar mansion, you have to also spend a lot of money on window treatments. There's not a single curtain in the whole place. Plantation shutters everywhere you go. That's the truth. Don't even get me started on how much fucking window treatments cost. By the way, if you're a young guy and you're out there and you have no idea what I'm talking about, I didn't know about window treatments before I got married either. I bought my first house, $365,000. I was so happy. Well, we had a small condo before, then we bought a brand new house back in 2007. We built it. Brand new house. It was fantastic, right downtown Nashville, and it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. $365,000. Put everything that I had into that house. Then my wife says, "Oh, did you budget for the plan? Did you budget for the window treatments?" I'm like, window treatments? The window's sick? Like, what do we need to do? We need to hook them up to an IV. We got to get them. We got to get them some treatment. Some chemotherapy for the windows. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. The fucking window treatments, $10,000 in the house. $10,000 for window treatments before the whole house got done. Before that, we had paper hanging in the windows. My wife's like, we can't have paper hanging in the windows. I'm telling you, no idea. Married guy out there, women know what window treatments cost, like these plantation shutters, all this different stuff. I had no idea that it cost this much money to cover windows. No idea. No idea. And these were not that fancy of window stuff. $10,000. Windows are going to fuck you worse than you ever imagined. And not the windows on a computer. I'm telling you right now, you're a single guy right now. You just listen to me. I'm telling you, I've been there. Buy the house, budget everything, got to buy the couch, televisions, everything else. These fucking window treatments will kill you. I mean, I could not tell you more how much window treatments are going to cost you. It's the biggest surprise, biggest shock. Like, I knew about property taxes. I knew about mortgage rates. I remember the home loan expert for that. I knew about everything associated with the house, except for the expenses you're going to have to arise because suddenly things are not going to work. Had no idea about window treatments. I guarantee you there's not a man alive who knows what window treatments cost. I had never heard of it. Never heard of the concept. Got to make sure you have enough money saved up for window treatments. By the way, the other advice here would be don't fucking get married. Because you know who doesn't care about window treatments? Your roommate, who's a dude. You guys can just put up like beach towels in the windows for the rest of your life. Save $10,000. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. That's the truth. Live with your roommates for as long as you possibly can. Go read the anonymous mailbag. All right. I think I saw a motherfucker say, move on. Guess what? Gone forever. Dead, motherfucker. If I happen to look up and you don't like what I'm talking about, guess what? You're banned for life. And the thing about this is, when I block you, you're never able to return forever. And people are going to come in and they're going to say, you know what? You blocked me. I think you made an accident. I think you accidentally blocked me. Can you unblock me? Can you go look me up? My name is, and guess what the answer is going to be? Nope. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. I'm not going to spend my free time trying to chase down your shitty-ass name in Periscope. Either go out and you start a new Twitter account, you start a new Periscope account, or you're forever gone. You never get to hang out. That's the truth. Just so you know, happen to look up, never going to be back again. That's the truth. That's the truth. Clay Kyle on fire here. All right, I want to start. We got a rundown to get to. Trump has saved 3 UCLA basketball players. The GRUMORS, the update on the GRUMORS. We're going to dive through that again. And we got the Gators. Are they about to hire Chip Kelly? Rumors out there that the announcement could come this week on Chip Kelly to the Gators. And could the Aggies be pivoting their interest to Jimbo Fisher? We will talk about all of those things, but I want to start right here. I want to start with this story, which I think is amazing. Donald Trump saved 3 UCLA basketball players from Chinese prison for shoplifting. By any means, that is a massive sports and politics related story. UCLA, one of the premier basketball programs of all time, Donald Trump saves all 3 of these UCLA basketball players from substantial prison time. He brings them back to America, and they are now free to do whatever they want to do, assuming that they can continue to play for UCLA. We don't know what the punishment is actually going to be from UCLA. We just don't know. Like, there could be a lot of different things that UCLA decides to do to them. Amazingly, this story, which is huge, international relations, China, Donald Trump, LeVar Ball's family, the middle child, LiAngelo Ball, as big of a story as you can possibly get in the world of sports, doesn't get as much attention from the sports media as LeBron James ripping Donald Trump on Instagram. Do you know why? Because the sports media doesn't want to cover a positive Donald Trump story. Now, I admit to you, I think Donald Trump makes some ridiculous decisions. I think that he is not his best advocate on Twitter. But when I see stories like this happen, stories which for all intents and purposes are massive beyond belief, and I see the ESPNs of the world and the other left-wing sports media members barely mention them, it makes me wonder what in the world's going on. How does the sports media cover Greg Popovich's 10th different opinion about Donald Trump more than they cover all of Donald Trump saving 3 players from UCLA? How does Jamel Hill call Donald Trump a white supremacist, but when he saves 3 black kids from UCLA from being in prison in China potentially for years, is what in the world is going on here that the media doesn't actually cover it? How does that happen? How is it that all of this media, which is obsessed with talking about Donald Trump and athletes talking about Donald Trump and everybody out there, wants to constantly at MSESPN talk about politics intersecting with sports? How is it that Donald Trump saves 3 black UCLA basketball players and we get crickets? I mean, he saved them from prison. He personally appealed to the president of China to release them when they are on tape violating Chinese law. Could have faced years in prison. Donald Trump brings them back to America, saves them from years in prison, and we get crickets. Tell me how that's remotely justified in any way from a purely news-making perspective. If Barack Obama had gone to China and saved 3 basketball players, ESPN would have had a fucking ticker tape parade that ended with John Skipper personally jacking off Barack Obama live on ESPN. That's what they would have done. Friggin' ticker tape parade ending with John Skipper just slow stroking Barack Obama right there, right on the television. You're the greatest human being of all time, Barack Obama. John Skipper, president of ESPN, likes a little lube in the hand, slow stroke for Barack Obama. It's 100% what would have happened, live on ESPN. Donald Trump does the exact same thing, and ESPN doesn't even cover it. Somebody explain to me how that's remotely justified in real life. Jamel Hill would have been out there doing the entire Sports Center at 6 from the White House freaking lawn. Oh my God, look at Barack Obama saving these black UCLA basketball players from a life in prison. What an incredible president. And by the way, I like Obama. I voted for him twice. But the amount of praise he would have gotten for doing this exact same thing is otherworldly. Donald Trump does it. Jamel Hill doesn't say anything. Sports Center ain't covering it. It's barely mentioned. The headlines on ESPN.com don't even mention Donald Trump. Tell me how remotely that's not media bias at work. You don't have to think Donald Trump is perfect. You don't even have to like Donald Trump. But I have noticed this in the media ever since. Remember when he had that kid? Remember when he had that kid who wanted to mow the lawn and he had him at the White House and he let him mow the lawn? And you're like, okay, this kid's like dream was to come mow the White House lawn. And then like everybody writes these stories about how Donald Trump was violating child labor laws and how it's unbelievable that he let a kid mow the grass. And I'm like, the dude just let a kid come to the White House and met him and mow the lawn. He's not that awful of a guy, right? I mean, I don't even understand how that could be a negative story. If Donald Trump cured cancer tomorrow, the front page headline on the New York Times would be, Donald Trump ignores sickle cell anemia. Black people still suffer at high rates compared to the rest of the world. I'm telling you, that's what the headline would be. Trump cures cancer, ignores sickle cell and minority communities. That's what the headline would be at the New York Times. That's how MSNBC would cover. That's how ESPN would cover it. I'm telling you, that's the world that we live in right now. I saw this story. I actually predicted it last week. Guys. I said, as soon as this happened, Donald Trump is landing in China. We are going to get Donald Trump to save the ball, brothers. And this is actually going to be a positive story for America. Save the ball kid, as well as the 2 UCLA basketball players. So this is a good story. Like, regardless of what political persuasion you follow, it's a good story that when 3 UCLA players do something stupid, that there's somebody there to save them from the U.S. and bring them back here and not make them do hard labor for violating shoplifting laws. By the way, all those knuckleheads out there who are always complaining about the American justice system, it's the best in the world. Everybody else models their justice system off of us. So everybody out there who's like, oh, America's so unfair. There's literally nowhere else in the world you could go where you would have better procedural safeguards, where you would have less unfair treatment, where you would have more equality in the world than the American judicial system. It ain't perfect. I work there. I'm a lawyer. But it's the best by far in the world. And when you go to China and you get arrested and you suddenly actually have to face years in prison for shoplifting, then, by the way, maybe you start to recognize, oh, you know what? America ain't so bad. I think that every American critic who wants to severely go after American way of life should have to go live in a third world country for a year. Not even on the Peace Corps. You just have to go live in a third world country for a year and see what the vast majority of the billions of people on earth actually live like. Because then you would come back to America and you wouldn't be sitting around criticizing all the time. You'd be like, you know what? America does a lot of things right. And I'm not saying America can't do things better. My number one goal for all of you out there who listen and watch the show regularly is be better. Do better. That's what America's about. But don't whine. Be better. Try to raise the conversation. Try to raise the elevation. Don't go out there and just whine and complain as if things are not good. The poorest people in America would be rich in virtually every other country. The poorest people in America have shelter and they have cable and they don't go hungry. okay? I wish that everybody was rich equally. I wish you all had as much money as I do now. But guess what? You don't. Because if you did, the world wouldn't exist. There'd be no value for money. Resources are still somewhat scarce. That's the truth. Yes, even the poorest people in America have iPhones. Like, we aren't actually poor. There's an obsession with calling Americans poor, but in relative terms, compared to the rest of the world, everyone here is rich. I saw somewhere where the poorest 10% in America would be the richest 15% in India. So the poorest 10% here would be the richest 15% in the country, India, that is the second most populous, unless it's just past China. India may have passed China now for the most population in the United States. So the other thing I want you to think about, when Ryan Lochte got robbed at gunpoint, ESPN and all the sports media people said, oh, Ryan Lochte's a perfect example of white privilege. Let me ask you this. Are LiAngelo Ball and his two UCLA teammates not the perfect example of black privilege? And I'm using that in a satirical fashion because the most important privilege in America today is not white, black, yellow, whatever color of the rainbow you are. It is green. If you have money, you get treated differently than if you don't have money. And the idea that Ryan Lochte was somehow, the ESPN, go check my Twitter feed, ESPN said Ryan Lochte is a perfect example of white privilege. Are these UCLA black basketball players then an example of black privilege? Or are they an example of athlete privilege and green? Again, there's only one kind of privilege in this country, and it's green privilege. You even have money or you don't. Another great example would be American privilege. Now, I don't have access to this data, but somebody might. I would love to see a study for what an average American college kid who got arrested for shoplifting would face in China if they didn't get help from the American government. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what the reaction at ESPN would be if Donald Trump, if these three UCLA basketball players instead had been like three, let's say, like white baseball players, and Donald Trump had gotten them out of prison for shoplifting? Everybody at ESPN would have said, oh, look at this example of white privilege. He does it for three black basketball players, and they don't even cover it. They don't even cover it. They don't talk about it. They don't discuss it in any way. This is a positive story that should have received an awful lot of attention. To me, this is a system, further evidence of how broken ESPN is, that nobody's even covering Donald Trump finding and saving three different players. The one thing I'm surprised by so far, we haven't seen it, although I still hold out hope for Michelle Beadle and Jamel Hill to pull it off, is how it's going to end up white people's fault that three black guys got arrested by a Chinese government. Somehow, if I've learned anything at all, somebody at ESPN will turn this into a white guy's fault. Everything in America today is a white guy's fault. Somehow, it's going to end up being a white guy's fault that three black kids in China got arrested in China. Watch. Somehow. Somebody's going to say it at ESPN. It's going to turn into a white guy's fault. Just wait. All right, let's get into any other questions about this. Any other questions? GRUMORS. Bet Online has the latest numbers for who is going to be the next head coach. The next head coach at Tennessee right now, Gruden plus 180. Mike Norvell, Memphis' coach, please God no, plus 250. Dan Mullen plus 450. Those are the three most popular names that are on the list. I still make Jon Gruden number one, Dan Mullen number two as the most likely. I would be stunned beyond belief if anybody hires Mike Norvell. If Mike Norvell from Memphis is the hire, I'm going to have to pick a new favorite team to root for because it will prove that Tennessee is so overcome by mosquito dictum that they can't even make a decent hire. Yeah, people out there, Norvell's a really good coach. I don't want to hear about Mike Norvell. All right? Norvell may end up being a great coach. I would rather have Lane Kiffin 1,000 times over. Mike Norvell has been at Memphis for what, 2 years? He's taken over a program that Justin Fuente built. I don't want another mosquito-dicked, middle-of-the-road coach. I want a helicopter-dick coach. That is the truth. No, I would not like Mike fucking Bobo. Mike fucking Bobo sounds like the made-up name of a coach who's going to suck at Tennessee. And if you remember, everybody wanted for, I think it was Mark Richt, to fire Bobo back in the day. I'm not sure that you can make up a name that is more ridiculous on its face to guarantee collapse than Mike fucking Bobo. So no, I do not want Mike fucking Bobo. Couple of things. There's also a report out there that Jon Gruden is not interested. Look, here's the deal. There is certainly interest, and the people that I'm talking to at Tennessee, I know there is interest, okay? I don't know why the national media has less of a connection to this Tennessee job situation. This has happened a couple of times. Remember when everybody at Michigan said, oh, you know what, I think we're going to hire Jim Harbaugh, and everybody national was saying, Jim Harbaugh is not going to Michigan. This is a ridiculous story. It's never going to happen. Remember when everybody around Alabama was like, hey, I think we might have a chance with Nick Saban, and then Nick Saban kept coming out at press conferences and saying, I don't know how to say it. I'm not going to be the next head coach at Alabama. Tennessee is making a play for Jon Gruden. I'm not sure whether it's going to happen or not, but national media, for whatever reason, is out of touch, not plugged in, doesn't have the connections. Trust me, I wrote a book on Tennessee. Who do you think is more plugged in at the University of Tennessee? The guy who spent a year with the program and knows a lot of people, including a lot of big boosters and everybody else, or some random guy who's also covering 20 different programs? Now, I'm not sure who's going to be there. I'm not sure who the final hire is going to be. But I know that Jon Gruden is in the mix, and that Tennessee is waiting on him to make a decision. Now, the other big rumor out there, the other big rumor that is out there is that this week the Gators are going to announce that they have hired Chip Kelly. Now, I think that is going to be a really big hire. I think that's going to be a massive hire. It's the perfect fit from Steve Spurrier to Urban Meyer to Chip Kelly. That is a helicopter job. That's a helicopter dick hire by Scott Strickland and Florida. And Chip Kelly, and first of all, you guys got to stop. I'm so sick of can so-and-so recruit, all right? I want to stop you for a minute. Nick Saban has a flip phone. Recruiting is the most overrated aspect of being a coach at a big-time program. Every big-time program recruits at a high level. Tennessee, under Butch Jones, has the same level of success on the recruiting trail as Clemson does under Dabo Swinney. The recruiting classes for the last 4 years are virtually indistinguishable. Clemson has won a national championship and is going to make another potential playoff this year, okay? Tennessee has recruited at the exact same level. What Tennessee has not done is end up with their players developing and panning out as 4 and 5 stars like they should be. The question with Chip Kelly isn't can he recruit. Florida is going to have fine players. The question is, will he win at a high level in the SEC just like he did in the Pac-12? That's the question. Look at who he recruited and who he found. Johnny Manziel, who he signed, 3-star. Marcus Mariota, 3-star. I believe Marcus Mariota's only other offer was Memphis. This guy has a system that works, and it's going to work really, really well at Florida. He's got players coming out of his eyeballs down in Florida. He will have plenty of talent, and he will win at an incredibly high level. I love that hire if the Gators are officially able to get it done. If the Gators can hire Chip Kelly, and if Tennessee can hire Jon Gruden, the SEC East, in conjunction with Kirby Smart and with Will Muschamp, who I think is going to do a good job for South Carolina, would be back. Look, Derek Mason and Mark Stoops, they're also Rands. They don't matter. They're never going to win at a high level. They're going to puddle around, be 5-7, 6-6, 7-5 sometimes. Barry Odom has got things actually rolling pretty well. Barry Odom has got things rolling really well at Missouri. If Drew Lock comes back again, they'll win at a high level. So that is the update on Tennessee. That's the update on Florida. I think Chip Kelly news could come down soon. I love the optimism. I love the optimism from the comments here that I'm seeing. Gruden is hired. The announcement's going to come on 11/26. There would be nothing better for me. Nothing better than for Tennessee to celebrate Thanksgiving by giving thanks to the Grudenator coming back to the University of Tennessee and winning championships, which he would do. That's what I would love. So I love the idea that that's going to happen. I hope that 11/26 is the answer. I hope that you're a genius. If so, you can come back into the comment sections and take your victory lap. That's true. All right? And here is, by the way, stop with the Gruden isn't getting hired talk. Again, I'm going to start blocking people who say stupid things if I look. Tennessee is a top 15 job. all right? This goes for any job. It's in the top 20 in college football. I'm going to block this guy, all right? You're dead. If I see you and you have such a stupid opinion that I look at you and I'm like, my God, it's clear that your brain doesn't work and you are so fucking stupid that you make my head hurt. Here's the truth. Tennessee is a lot like Alabama was after Gene Stallings. If we had been doing this show, if the technology had existed, people would have come on here when they were talking about hiring Nick Saban, and they would have said, why would Nick Saban leave the NFL and go coach at Alabama? Alabama's best days are behind it. Alabama can never win at a high level again. The expectations of Alabama fans are too high. That fan base is crazy. There's no way you could ever satisfy them. All of those things would be 100% true. People would have said, hey, look, Auburn's beaten Alabama 6 years in a row. Tommy Tuberville's got it rolling. Alabama's not as good of a job as it used to be. Look at what's happening at Tennessee. Tennessee's dominating them now. Georgia's really good. Florida's really good. Florida was never good when Alabama was good in the past. All of these things I could have made the argument about in 2006 when Alabama was trying to figure out who they were going to hire. The truth of the matter was Alabama sucked for over a decade. Alabama sucked for over a decade, and that is the truth. And you can agree or disagree with that, but if you don't understand it, go back and look at the record books, because some of you guys are so young, you don't even have a recollection. Like, you're 18 years old now. Alabama's been dominant since you're 8 years old. It's like they've never sucked. Go back and look. I'm 38. I can tell you Alabama used to suck. Tennessee used to beat the shit out of Alabama. 9 out of 10 years, Tennessee beat the fuck out of Alabama. Phil Fulmer owned Alabama. That's the truth. People don't believe it now. Everything is cyclical. When I was a kid, Alabama had won 11%, 11 games in a row. And Tennessee couldn't win. Then they couldn't lose. Now they can't win again. Everything in college football is cyclical, and now it's all about the head coach. Nick Saban eventually is not going to be at Alabama again. And in 20 years, people probably talk about Nick Saban like they talked about Bear Bryant. Alabama is going to revert to the mean. Over time, programs find their water. And what I mean by that is Tennessee is the 8th winningest program all time in college football. 2nd winningest all time in the SEC. That doesn't happen overnight. That happens over a 110-year period. And so right now, Tennessee is at a wall. But this idea that suddenly they can't go get a good coach and win at a high level is just fundamentally wrong. That's the truth. All right? That is the truth. So the newest rumor is that Texas A&M now is pursuing Jimbo Fisher. And there's also been some flirtation between Texas A&M and, Jimbo Fisher supposedly, and Tennessee. I told you yesterday that the name that I had heard from several people that was interested in the Tennessee job, current Jacksonville Jaguars head coach Doug Marrone. But I don't think Tennessee will wait on an NFL head coach. Although I would love if Doug Marrone just walked out on the Jacksonville season and took over the Tennessee job. How amazing would that be if he left a note in the Jacksonville Jaguars locker room? If you're a Jags fan, you would just have to give up. You would just have to give up on life if Doug Marrone just like pinned a note to the bulletin board and walked out to go take the Tennessee job, Bobby Petrino with the Atlanta Falcons style. That would be amazing, especially because they're in the mix to actually win that division. But that would be Bobby Petrino 2.0. Next thing you know, you're calling the Hogs. That was an amazing story to make sure you can get all the recruits signed. But that in and of itself is an amazing story. But Jimbo Fisher wants out of Tallahassee because his wife banged a Florida Gator football player, and he wants to actually find some escape, I think, from that. And so he's letting his name be floated everywhere. Aggieland, Tennessee, wherever he can go, he wants to go. I actually think A&M could be totally interested in making that hire. Now, Kevin Sumlin still gets his chance. He can try to go out and win 2 more games. He's got Ole Miss this weekend, and then he finishes with A&M. I think if Sumlin gets to 8-4, that it would be hard for the Aggies to fire him because he would finish 5-3 in the SEC West. But we'll see exactly what happens before all is said and done. Yeah, that's why Jimbo Fisher got divorced. His wife was banging, I think it was Taylor Jacobs, right? Taylor Jacobs was banging Jimbo Fisher's wife, and they got divorced. Taylor Jacobs, former Florida Gator wide receiver, was her trainer, and they got divorced because of it. So Jimbo Fisher wants out of Florida State, and you can understand why he would hate Florida too as well, why he would want to beat the Gators' ass. So maybe he doesn't want to go to Tennessee. And if so, I hope he uses that anger brought on by Taylor Jacobs banging his wife to just want to destroy the Florida Gators, because I would actually welcome him in Tennessee anybody who could beat the Florida Gators on a regular basis. So you definitely know he would hate the Gators with a fiery passion. Okay, I love all of you. We'll be live tomorrow, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern on Fox Sports Radio, Sirius XM Channel 218, XM Channel 202. I love all of you. Thank you for hanging with me this afternoon. We'll be back tomorrow as we get closer to the big Titans versus Steelers game. Really difficult, but I think Chip Kelly to Florida is going to happen. The Groomers continue. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. Go read the anonymous mailbag. This has been Outkick the Show.